You are now entering the LuxCore Studios. And you've secured a seat for the Protecting Your Radius podcast. Here, we build connections from your contracting profession to some of the top bleeding edge products and services. Don't get deterred. Let's not delay. Here is your host, Nathan Downs.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Protecting Your Radius podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Downs. And on today's episode, we have my dear friend, Mr. Tony Thornton. Tony, how you doing, buddy?
Man, life is good. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing good. We're just, drudging through the summer jobs and projects, and you know how that is. You have been there. You've been in
there, done it, and everybody I talk to is in the same situation.
Right. And you've been in the industry for well over 40 years. Everybody knows you have your own consulting company now, Thornton Fence Consulting Group, and you're the previous AFA executive director for 13 years. Is that right?
It was for 8 years.
8 years. Okay. It felt like 13. It was only 8.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you've been an instrumental part, even over the years that we've known each other, but you've been an instrumental part in changing so many things about the industry. And that's why I wanted to get you on the episode today, because your group and everything that you're doing is really setting new standards. I look at yourself and the Sean Kings, and you guys are doing things to elevate the industry in a way that hasn't been done before, right? And I know your heart, because we've talked about this, especially you having me as one of your instructors at some of your super summits that you do and everything. But let's talk about that. Like when you got into the consulting space a little over a year ago and everything, and what that looked like, you had a couple different avenues of how to deliver messaging and information out to the marketplace. So yeah, I'll give the floor to you, buddy.
Well, I appreciate that, Nathan. And like you said, you and I have known each other quite a while. We talked about a lot of different things, but during my tenure serving as executive director of AFA, those last few years, I was doing a lot of mentoring and coaching. Young companies saying, "Hey, Tony, how would you do this? Hey, Tony, ask this question. Let me give you some input." And a lot of these companies started seeing a lot of success. I didn't have anything in my head about going into the consulting industry. I don't consider myself a consultant. I consider myself a fence guy. That's who Tony Thornton is. So, more and more it weighed on me. And honestly, I'm a very faithful guy. And at the end of the day, through prayer and a lot of discussions with my wife, I made the decision, start this Thornton Fence Consulting Group. I didn't know if it was going to be successful or fail overnight, but the industry has wrapped their arms around it. We've got a phenomenal group of clients, and starting out, I really didn't know what avenue we needed to take, what business model looked like for a consulting group, especially a fence consulting group. But it's emerged, it's evolved. You got to be nimble, and you got to pivot, the word that's been used so much here in the last few years. But, initially it was all about the training at the summits, at the ultimate summits, and then the consults, kind of being second tier to that. But it's taken a complete shift. We've done a lot of good. We've educated over probably 100 people through the summits, but now the consults have just exploded, and been very blessed to, just in 15 months of being in business, we've got close to 20 consults completed, and I've got about 10 to 12 in the pipeline, meaning that paperwork has been executed, contracts have been done, deposits have been received. Now we got to get them on the schedule. So it's been just a blessing the whole way.
That's awesome, man. One really fun thing about the summits, Tony, that we got to experience as we continue to do those, and I think we're going to talk about this here later in the show about some of the upcoming events and all the exciting things. This is season 2 for my show. So it's the second half of 2023. There's a lot of activity, a lot of movement. And I think this winter is really going to be an accelerator for information in the marketplace, what some of those of us that have podcasts are doing, and just what we're seeing out there from a marketing perspective. People are finally starting to click on this stuff, right? Like they're really seeing there's information out there I can capture and bring in. And that, and at the summits, that was the really cool thing about having an isolated group for a couple days, almost like a boot camp experience, where you're coming in, you're bringing people in from the area, maybe even outside the area, and they're coming to a central point. We're getting to meet them and letting them take some information in. You have what I call the Fence Bible, this big old book that everyone gets at the right there. That's it. But every one of the summit attendees gets that book, and even Ashley and I have talked about that at home. We've used the book on different things. We're like, hey, Tweak City, there's an answer here on page 97, and you start looking at this. But having resources like that is invaluable. And with your time in the industry and being at such, large, successful companies and from the ground up, and even having your own, what do you see when people are looking for that information? Like, how do you feel it's different today? Because I say it's different, but I'm still young at this thing.
You've heard the story, back in my day, and I consider myself an old school fence guy. Back in the day, my mentor, Jerry Jeffcoat, the Pat Calhouns of the world, Mississippi, it was like, no, we can't talk to those guys. We're in competition. We don't want to share anything. I got this special antidote. And honestly, over the last, I would say, 6 to 8, 10 years, we've seen an evolution of more people wanting to share. Okay. Now, what does this do for us as an industry? It improves our professionalism. It improves our knowledge. It improves our everything about our industry. And that's what we want to do as a professional fence contractor, fence owner, or whatever, through podcasts like you're doing, or the education that we're doing, or the Sean Kings and the other guys that are out there doing the education on installations. It's so impactful, and we've got more people engaged. And we got to play this card. Social media has brought us together. Okay. Right. Some positive ways, some negative ways, but social media has been an avenue of communicating to our fencing professionals that we didn't have back in my day, man. I mean, I remember the first fax machine that I ever bought. What was email back when I was growing up? It was handwritten letters. So look at the impact that those type things are making on our industry. And we've grown as an we've grown as an industry. We've grown more professional. We're asking the right questions. And I tell everybody, us men folk, we don't want to ask questions. We got it all figured out. But at the end of the day, those that are asking the questions are the ones that are elevating themselves, taking it to the next step, and really improving their operation. So I see that happening every day.
Yep, absolutely. One of my favorite sayings from a recent show that came out was in Ted Lasso. And he's got a scene in the first season of Ted Lasso where Jason Sudeikis is talking about being curious. And I think that is a profound thought process that so many of us, Tony, at no time in the history of the earth have we had as much information at our fingertips as in this moment in time. So you can do things, and that speed of everything, but especially the speed of business, is so much heightened today. I take what we're doing at RADUIS as an example of that, to be able to do things at such a breakneck speed and set a new path, a new standard, and utilizing all these technologies. And that's one of the things that you do in your teaching, and in your consults. You broke it down into a number of different steps that I'd love for you to kind of go through the 5 pillars of what you're doing. And then, and really, once you say those, so everybody has like this concept, this overarching concept, what do you see as the biggest pain point and growth opportunity out of those 5 tenets? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's back into this thing. Okay. So the fence line to success is really a foundation. Okay. It's 15 chapters of content. You know it like the back of your hand because you've taught it and you've been part of all the training that, Thornton Fence Consulting Group has done. And I just want to mention this. This book was designed for the summits. And I've had numerous people say, hey, Tony, will you sell me that book? Well, to come to a summit, it costs X amount of money. And I said, no, you need to come to a summit because you're not going to get the bigger impact out of listening to the educators, listening to the presenters, and taking the book home with you, you're going to be better prepared. But because of the demand, okay, I just launched a online site for my new book, which we'll talk about later.
Yep.
But also Fence Line of Success, 15 chapters, over 300 pages of content that's come not only from me, but other peers in the industry, is now available on our website for purchase for our industry professionals. So that's a first.
That's
Heard
awesome.
it on your podcast, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, what evolved out of the summits was the consult. We already knew we wanted to consult. We felt like we had a good platform there. And the 5 pillars, as you called it, when I go in and do a consult, it starts like this. We have a conversation. We want to make sure that we got a good fit. What are your needs? What are your challenges? And let me talk to you about some of the things that we want to look at. And we just see if it's going to be a good fit. I've actually told one guy, you know what? I've recommended 5 things to you, and you said, no, that never worked for my company, so we're probably not going to be a good fit.
Right.
So, good luck. We're not going to do business. I mean, sometimes you got to walk away, right?
Yep.
And we train that, right? So, but with that, we go through the process of an eval, an interview on both sides. We agree that, let's take the next step. We fill out a 5-page survey, and those individuals that fill out this survey really gives me the information I need, the depth of information I need to be able to see what their companies look like on paper, their personality. Do they have an operations guy? Do they have a sales manager? What type of close ratios are they having? What type of pre-qualifying? All these things that we need to be doing as business owners are asked in this questionnaire. And then I ask the hard questions. Okay, what's your strengths? What's your challenges? What's your weaknesses? And when those guys start putting those things on paper, it's impactful. Because I tell every one of them, guys, I can almost promise you that we can fix these challenges. We can fix them, okay? So we go through that process, and then, okay, if you're ready to sign an NDA and the next step is an agreement, we go through that, and then we go in and set up a 3-day consult, a 3-day face-to-face. So if we were coming into your facility, we'd have done all of that groundwork, spent several hours on the phone, building what I call the goals and objectives for your company for us to come in and evaluate. And it's really the 5 pillars are the leadership and the management and the organizational structure. What does your organizational structure look like? The second thing is sales and marketing, which everybody needs to put a sales program together, a marketing program. You can't just put it out on social media. You got to have a program in place, and you got to put some marketing dollars behind it. The third one, which is a huge challenge for a lot of our startup companies, is accounting and the financial aspect. And we really kind of deep dive into understanding, what does it take for you to walk in the door, flip your light switch on, the coffee start brewing, and you make some money. I mean, that's the end of the game. And then the fourth, which is part of the biggest challenge, you said, what is the biggest challenge?
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, this for you, it's for Tony Thornton's fence company, it's for everybody else's fence company. It's the workflow and the procedures that you have in place from the time the phone rings all the way through collections. And we've been very fortunate over the last 15, 16 months, even before that. I've got what I call the overall checklist. You've seen it, and I'm adding to it every week. What does it take to put the checks in the boxes for that company to run efficiently and be productive and profitable? And then, of course, the last piece, depending on whether you subcontracts or subcontractors and or using in-house, is we evaluate your installation. We evaluate your production, because with as many people as I talk to throughout the company, throughout the country, we've come up with a basic, okay, you need to be able to do this much production on the average job, Yep. So we talk about all of those 4 pillars, and we deep dive into the workflow process. We put it on wall boards. A lot of you guys have probably seen some of the social media stuff that we do out there, but we deep dive into the strengths, the weaknesses, the challenges. We come up with some strong recommendations, immediate impacts, and then we do that workflow. What happens with admin when the phone rings? What happens with sales when they go out there and meet Miss Jones? What happens in operations? And then what happens on installation? And then, oh, by the way, there's an accounting piece that goes in there too. So we workflow that whole thing to make sure that, and you've heard this story, dominoes. I want to see those dominoes falling all in a line. I don't want to go this way and come back. I want to just blah, 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 blah. And we've had huge success with the procedures and the workflow discussions. It's an eye-opening experience for a lot of business owners to say, wow, I did not know I was this unorganized. And it all boils down to that workflow, in my opinion. It's proven itself to me already.
That was the thing that I remember from so many of the summits that we've already done, is that when we came the second one, where you had that overall checklist and you handed it to me when we first saw each other getting into town. You're like, hey, check this out. What do you think about this? And I think it was 5 pages at the time. And I'm reading through it, flipping it. And I'm like, I go, that's literally everything, and anything you could ever imagine, from the moment the moment someone even thinks they need a fence, all the way to what happens, a year after or whatever, right? It's this just massive storyline there. And I love seeing people that we were showing this to that were new in the business since COVID, the pandemic, and sitting down with other companies that were 20, 30 years old, right? Or more. I mean, we had 70-year-old companies that have come to the summits, and seeing like they're like, oh, well, we've done this right for 50 years, but in today's environment, and that's one of the things that's fun for me to see with you, Tony, is you have that old school mentality and stuff, but then watching us younger, less mature people in the marketplace go like, yeah, I don't think that works that way. And then you're like, really? And you're taking the time to look introspectively into the opportunities that this environment creates out there today, which is totally different than even 10 years ago.
It is. I tell everybody, us old school guys, we had to be nimble enough and we had to be open-minded enough to accept, the business technologies that's available to us now that we never had. When I talk about workflow, we used to do it on a spreadsheet or on a whiteboard. Yep. There's a lot of companies that I do consults for that still does that is the perfect parameter for them. But now we've introduced them to workflow softwares that when they're ready to scale to that 5 million to that 10 million, they can implement this technology that's going to take them to that next level. And that's some of the challenges that I've dealt with consults, is saying, look, Tony, I've got a great company. I got some good procedures. I'm at 5 million. I need to go to 7.5, to continue this growth. How do I do it? They've plateaued because their resources are tapped out. They don't have the technology. And the next step is they don't have the procedures. So now, if everybody puts a check in the box, everybody does their job, as it's passed along, that domino falls, and everybody is loving what's happening, and we got a better work-life environment, for the whole organization, which is building a better culture, and how culture-driven our training is.
Yep.
It's all a big puzzle, but it's not rocket science. It's just common sense stuff. You and I don't tell these guys anything that they don't already know.
Yep.
We're just putting it in a format and a perspective that I'm a fence guy, you're a fence guy. We're training you from a fence guy's perspective. And, we're not a consultant that only deals with financials. We're not a consultant that only deals with, the business. We're a fence people that have developed these procedures that you can take, you can build, and you can grow. That's the key.
Yep. Dan Wheeler from the Fence Industry Podcast said on his first or second episode, I forgot. It might have actually been Michael from Chesterfield Fence out in Virginia. They were talking about just that the fence industry itself, like, it's hard as a contractor, right? Like, there's no other contracting. It's the same way with gates. Like, it's so funny. There's no other contractor that has to dig their own holes, use all these tools to set posts plumb and straight. You have to find property lines. You have to so you start adding all the things that we do that people take it for granted. And you're like, I'm a surveyor. I'm an excavator. I'm a concrete finisher. I'm a carpenter. I'm a trim carpenter. I'm this, that, and other. We go on the gate side, which you and I have done a ton of gate stuff. Okay. Yeah. I'm a welder. I'm a fabricator. I'm a low voltage electrician. I'm a high voltage electrician. And you just keep going through, and it's like, there's so many pieces. And then we wonder why people are like, this is hard. And it is hard.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I think sometimes it's easy, if we're older in the business or haven't been in the field in a long time, to remember it's hard. I was out on a AFA board of directors call about a month ago, and I had propped up my phone on the fence, and I was digging out footers out of the ground because the customer, it was a whole big contract thing. And I'm like, you know what? I told the lady, I will come out and dig out these 4-footers. So you pay your bill, because I'm not going to argue about this anymore. Like, it was clear as day that we weren't going to do that. She was clear as day she was not paying me. And I'm like, that doesn't work. So it's 4:00 in the afternoon, 105 degrees outside. And here's me with a pickaxe jamming this thing in my rock bar, and I'm breaking it out and they're laughing. And somebody's like, Nathan, are you working like in the field? And they see me. And I heard in the background, Randy Ward going, yep, somebody owes them money. And I was like, business owner, you know why I'm out here just red-faced, sweating,
been there, just done it.
Just hot as fire, going, come on. But that, why I brought that up and was thinking about that was, that's one of the things that I think I wonder, and I want to get your take on this real quick, but when I hear, especially people that have these businesses that are 7-figure businesses, they're at that precipice of the 3, the 4, the 5 million. There's a lot of businesses in that range that want to scale and grow. But I think after talking to so many people around the country and understanding what that looks like, is I think they get capped out, because you can only do with your processes and job flow, you can only get to a certain level until you start utilizing other resources like technology, right? Exactly. Like I've been in an organization where we're doing the whiteboards, and it's physically impossible to take that past 5 million. Like, it's possible, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the job folders and doing job folders, and I was sitting there, 10 years ago when I got in the contracting side going, does this, like, what happens if we sell 3 times as many jobs? We're going to have 75 folders in these things. We don't even have enough room on the wall to stick all those job folders. Mm-hmm. And then how do you keep track of them? And I said, this is impossible. Like, it's not physically possible. Our board doesn't have that much room. Are we going to build onto the building and add in no more boards just so we can have this huge thing? So what do you think on that?
Well, I agree with you completely in the fact that in order to scale, you've got to introduce the technology, okay? But, some of us old school guys, we're held up in our ways. And if we're happy at that 5 million mark and we're making all the money we need, fine, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you're ready to find an exit strategy or a succession plan or whatever, you better have your margins right on both, the gross, the net margins and the gross margins. So I agree with you at that 5 million. That's kind of where that threshold is. Out of the consults that we've done over the last 15 months, most companies are in that 2.5 to 5 million. But, probably a third of our clients are at that 7.5 to 10 million, and then the rest of them are 10. And I've got 2 that's 15 million and above. Mm-hmm. So, and those are old school guys that says, Tony, it's time for me to wrap my arms around new technology, new ways of doing things. And let's see where it's going to take us. And the first thing is they're stalemated. They can't go anymore until we do something different. And when you put that workflow on the wall over there, we're not putting Tony's name and Nate's name up there. We're talking about admin. They answer the phone, and this is the steps that it takes. Sales, this is what you do. Operations, this is what you do. And then when you start finding where those dominoes do not align, that's where you're having your problem. And then if you put positions on a wall board and you see how many times somebody touches that one contract, okay, you're going to find out that this one person is the holdup, and usually it's the owner, okay? Get out of your own way, owner. Let these guys that you've hired do the job. And I'm going to step back into where you were earlier about our industry is a tough industry to be in, okay? We are, in my opinion, some of the most robust, hardworking, most knowledgeable mechanical people that is in any trade, okay? We got to do a little bit of all of it. And the key to success for companies, and I train this every day with my consults, and you've heard it at the summits, you got to find the right person, you got to get them in the right position, and you got to get them in the right direction. So right people, right seats, right direction. Now, how do we find the right people? We take our time and get that done correctly, okay? We got a good interview process. But when we get them and we put them in the seat, we got to train them. We can't just set an expectation, go run this division. You don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Train them, set an expectation, give them the tools to succeed, not the tools to fail. And then you're going to have a well-operating company, a well-efficiently run company, which is ultimately going to bring you profitability. So all of those pieces of the puzzle are part of building a strong company. Where your plateaus, what you got to do the next level. All of it's a big picture. And I'm going to say it again. It's not easy, but it's not rocket science either.
Right. Now that's exciting. So I'm thinking now of all the things, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, of all the things going on. There's so much activity out there. There's so many events coming up in different things. Tony, where are you camping out the rest of the year? Are you going to see Tammy much? Or are you going to be on the road every week, flying around, doing your thing? Or what's the plan for Tony Thornton?
Part of the book talks about, finding that work-life balance. And it's taken me about a year to find that because how passionate I am about the industry and I'm wide open. I'm 110 miles an hour, right? So it's taken me about a year to 12 to 13 months to finally find my work-life balance. I take the time I need. Tammy and I have a lot of time with the grandkids. But, yes, it is a busy time. I'm very fortunate that one of my good friends, and him, Mr. Mike Gullidge from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, has come on as an associate consultant with Thornton Fence Consulting. So he's offered me a lot of support, and he's doing a lot of the follow-ups with our clients. We've got a lot happening throughout the rest of the year. Something very exciting in 2 weeks is the partnership with SAS, Southwest Automated Access, on the boot camp, the Gate Operator Technician Training Troubleshooting Boot Camp. Nobody's ever done anything like this. So 2 full days, 8 manufacturers coming in, training on the technical aspects of the most troubleshooted products they get the phone calls on through tech support. And then I'm going to finish it up on Tuesday afternoon with about an hour and a half on the 7 strategies based on the book on how to improve your operation. So that's coming up real quick. The next big summit will be in Minneapolis over in September. We've got several registrations for that, but I'm going to be doing some promos on that here in the next couple of weeks. And then I'm going to be exhibiting. Mike and I will be at the Fence Show in Vegas next month. And then, of course, we've already got our booth for Fence Tech next year. So we're planning long term. We got a lot going on.
Awesome.
And in between that, I got to get all these 12 or 15 in the pipeline on my whiteboard, okay? Consults done, and I got a lot of good clients, a lot of patient clients that says, man, just get me when you can, because it's been tremendous. It's really been a blessing, and I feel like we're making some major impacts, with the industry and these guys. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's good. So you mentioned something that is one of the big reasons I brought you on the podcast. You said something about a book, and I think I got emailed an ARC of the book. I don't know if that was an outline, but that sure looked like an advanced reader copy in my email. So I read it, and it is awesome. So I think, do you have the book? Oh my gosh, here we go. There it is, right there.
The 7 strategies for the professional fence contractor to unlock maximum efficient and profitability. Underlying how to find the perfect work-life balance through procedures and checklists to run your company. Oh, and I wrote it. Okay. So I'm real excited about this. What we took was the 15 chapters out of our Fence Line of Success. I really did a lot of calling and talking with people about what are the top 6 to 7 things that if you could do it today, overnight, snap your finger, make a difference, what would it be? And that's the 7 strategies that we've outlined. We've gone into really in-depth discussions on that workflow process. That's 6 pages, okay, that's grown into even more now. It's in this book. So we're giving you the tools to basically take everything that we're doing, and implement these 7 strategies. The book, we did a pre-sale, notification at Fence Tech this last year. We've got over 150 copies pre-sold. Every
awesome.
time I send out an email or a newsletter, we get a couple more dings. You can click on those QR codes and go ahead and pre-order. And the pre-orders actually come with a coffee cup, so you can drink your coffee and read the book. I tell everybody the first 100 I'm going to sign, I'm on an autograph autograph ain't worth nothing, but that book is worth everything.
Absolutely.
You know, but this book is in production. It's at the publisher. You are right. You and several other peers in the industry got a first read on the manuscript, asking for your input. Your comments, along with several others, will be part of a testimonial that'll be in the book or on the back of the book. So thank you, Nathan, for doing that, and trusting that, you read it and that you see the impact that it's going to make on our industry.
For sure.
I don't know that anybody's ever wrote a book for the fencing industry, specific to the fencing industry. But honestly, you could take fence out and put plumbing in.
Yep.
Honestly, but this is coming from me and a lot of peers that have shared their education and knowledge and mentored and coached me along the way to help me, bring this to fruition. I've already started a second book, and I've got some mini publications that we're working on as well. So I think that's another business model that Thornton Fence Consulting Group is going down. Maybe less training summits, maybe 1 or 2 a year, with the consults, with the education through writings, books, publications, and those type things to hopefully help our industry professionals, get in a better position to run their operation.
Absolutely. The book is so good because I feel the essence of what has been done at the summits, and it's like on pages that you can read in the story. And I love that, just the opportunity to learn in that way. Are you going to do like an Audible version of that at some point, or because I'm a big audio guy? Yeah.
So it will be published. I've got a publisher, and the publishers, we're going to do hard copy, and I'm also going to do some paperbacks, and that'll all be on the website, to be able to purchase. We will have them at all the fence shows and all the presentations and training that I do, throughout the year. But there will be an ebook, that is produced by my publisher. So you'll be able to buy the ebook if you want to get on a plane and start reading. There you have it on your iPad or your tablet or whatever. But the next step is doing an Audible. And I ask a lot of my peers, who would be a perfect candidate to read, this, do the Audible on this? And they said, there ain't nobody that can do it but you.
Exactly.
What are you talking about? This country kid from Mississippi with this, accent that nobody understands. No, that wouldn't be a good. No, Tony. This Audible is all about the book and where you come from. So you need to do that Audible. So I got to set aside the time to make that happen, and that will be the next step on the 7 strategies for our fence professionals as an Audible.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to hear you say, this is Tony Thornton from Pearl, Mississippi. I think I always think of that. Like if I hear someone say Pearl, I go Pearl, Mississippi. And I'm like, man, I know. I was like, I've heard it so many times. I'm like, yes, Pearl. That's funny. Word association.
I'm very blessed and fortunate that 2 of our icons in the industry did some pre-writes on it. My good friend, your good friend, Barry Willingham, has written the foreword for the book. And those industry guys that know him and those that don't, they'll be introduced to who Barry is. But the second is my mentor, Jerry Jeffcoat. And he's wrote the preface of, when he picked me up that day to go build that fence. And here I am, 47 plus years later, still in the fence industry. So I blame it all on him. But he's got a nice preface in there. And, we got a lot of acknowledgments of people that have done, a lot to help write that book and bring it to, the point we are at this stage of our, our industry and our career.
It is definitely going, if you're in the fence industry or the gate industry, it's definitely going to be something you have to buy and read that book, or one day maybe listen to it, for sure. But it is, I love it. I know. The Fence Bible, as we were calling it, the big old book from the summits. And I want to say, I know you didn't say this earlier, but I'm pretty sure that you told some people at the summits that you would never sell that thing.
I did.
So, okay. I thought I remember hearing
I'm going to have to take a little egg for those guys, It's just, I never would have expected the demand.
Yeah.
And I've held out. But it goes back to what part of our conversation on the front end. You got to be nimble enough. You got to be able to pivot. You've got to be able to provide what the industry is needing. And the industry says, look, Tony, I'm busy. I've got more rain this year than I've ever had. I can't get to a summit, but man, I would pay, X amount of money for that book. Okay. Yep. So that's why I went ahead and put it on the website. You can pre-order the 7 strategies, and you go ahead and purchase this, Fence Line of Success booklet. And then, as we develop more content, more books and things, it'll always be on our website, www.fenceconsultinggroup.com. And you can order that through, through the online shopping cart that we have there.
And we'll have in our show notes for this show, guys, all the links directly to those books and everything on Tony's website, so that way you can get on the list. You can order all that stuff and get it going. You said something that, as we kind of wrap this thing up and put a bow on it, Tony, you said something a second ago that I think is really important for everyone at this point in the conversation to remember and realize, is being nimble, whether it's our companies or other organizations that assist the industry as a whole. Yes. I see the success happening for those groups that are the most nimble. So that is also putting everyone on blast. That is the slow-moving Goliaths of the industry. Yes. You have to be aware, it's easy for me to take what we're doing at Radius in our marketplace is a great example. We have all these, and them, which is really funny, but we have all these really great old founded companies in my market, and yet we're still just driving every day. I mean, just taking more ground. And it's not anything that I'm doing or anything the team's doing as much as the fact of we're establishing just this protocol and expectation, and then working through the process. So we've developed the process flows, we've got everything, and now we're just working the program that we've created. But if you're an older company, if you've been around, if you're an older organization that's moving at a very slow speed, you got to be on the watch. You got to be on the lookout, because there's a lot of people that are making, and like you said, there's so many. I hate using buzzwords, but I feel like I say them all the time. I'm like, but like that pivot, that immediate change, that change of direction out there, it's critical.
You have to. It is. Again, and I'll use this as an example. The Yellow Pages, they're non-existent because they kept trying to do that, and they wouldn't get on the technology side. Yep. I know that's extreme. Yep. But, I've got friends in the industry, old school friends that are still doing it the same way today that they were 20 years ago. They're not going to change. They got a second generation, maybe third generation that they're trying to train to do their way, but yet the younger generation is saying, wow, I need to call Tony, I need to call Nate, I need to call somebody to figure out what to do next, right? Yep. And that's where we're at now with willingness to share, because a lot of those old school companies that are just surviving, or what I call making paychecks, are the ones that are selling on price. What's my competition doing? Well, I tell everybody, you don't have any competition except yourself. What's your margins? And then we're not going to sell on price. We're going to sell on value. We're going to sell on quality. And bigger than anything else in our industry right now is customer experience. If that customer is going to have a great experience, and we get those Google reviews and all those things that go into what we have to now, the technology side of it, man, we're going to set the world on fire, and every company's going to grow quickly. Yep. But it's just being open-minded enough, nimble enough, and being able to pivot, I'll use your word, to make those changes. And the only way you're going to do that is do SWOT analysis, environmental scans, market segmentation discussions, find out who your true customer is, and then go after it, right? Work hard for that. And we're not going to the south side of town or the north side of town that nobody has any money in. That's just, no, we're not going over there. We're going to focus on this customer, and that's the key. Yep. In my opinion.
Love it. Everything you said, 100%. So, well, Tony, we appreciate you coming on the show today. On social media and everything, where can everybody find you and follow your content? Because I know you're always out there doing stuff, sharing things.
Yep, we're, www.fenceconsultinggroup.com is our website. We've got all of our consults and all of our summits and things on there, including we put a reference page on there a couple of months ago to where you can go pick up on 2 to 3 minute segments of videos on how to do certain things. And then we've got the, the website to purchase the books and get started there. But we're going to be bringing a lot more content to that here in the future. But I've kind of backed off of social media a little bit because we got so busy.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's social media. Thornton Fence Consulting is on Facebook and LinkedIn under my name, Tony Thornton. And then I think that's linked to an Instagram account. And there's a lot of other things that you younger guys know that I don't have a clue about. But Tony don't do all of that. So.
All good. All good. Well, I appreciate you investing some time for everybody today so we could talk about this. We could talk about the 2 books coming out that are on, pre-order and all that stuff like that. I mean, order your copies. Like I said, in the show notes below, you'll be able to go directly to the website and pick up all these things. And go ahead, bud.
Yeah. I just want to say, Nathan, job well done. When you said, Tony, I'm going to do a podcast, I said, Nathan, do it for the industry.
Yep.
Do it for the standards, the industry, and improving our industry professionally. And I just want to say, job well done, my friend, because you're doing it. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I'm excited, as I mentioned just last week on the show, what we have planned through the second half of this year is going to be even more like it's for the people in the trenches. Like that's where we continue to go. And this thing is, you've done some of this stuff with the podcasting and all that on the fence line and everything. It is hard. And it's not hard to get the content as much as it's hard, man, especially for someone like me. I've got a family, I've got a wife and kids and all this stuff. We got football coming up here in a couple of weeks. We're going to start that. And then we got the business and this, that, and the other. And there's so many different, spinning plates, so to speak. Absolutely. But, we're just trying to do our part and just provide content because I love this stuff, Tony, just like us talking. I love just to learn something that, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier, be curious. Like if that stirs something in your soul, if that stirs something in your being, like that's good because that means you have the desire and the drive. And then now we just need to put the work behind it and make sure that the work we're putting behind it is in the right system to achieve what our goals are. So,
we can either work hard or work easy, but we can still achieve the same thing, right?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So, guys, everybody, Tony again, we appreciate you being on today, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
You've been listening to the Protecting Your Radius podcast from the LuxCore Studios in Bixby, Oklahoma. Thanks for sticking around, and connect with us and all of our partners at www.protectingyourradius.com. We want to thank our premier partners. LuxCore, the newest line of premium quality composite infill to slide into your fence track fence system. Frame your style today. Also, Stain Track, the world's first patented standalone stain machine. Utilizing flood coat technology, Stain Track covers boards, pickets, posts, and any type of dimensional wood you can think of. And what better way to use your Stain Track machine than to use the easy application Wood Defender family of stains. Wood Defender goes on easy and covers in one coat with no back brushing. And of course, the true power of our show is you, the listener. Please rate and review our show on whatever platform you consume this content. Your 5-star likes and reviews help other contractors get the message that we all want to be better and do better. And in the construction world, we can never forget that before you can be great, you've got to be good. Before you can be good, you've got to be bad. But before you can even be bad, you've got to try.